I held the DNA test results in my trembling hands while standing over my father's fresh grave. And suddenly, everything he whispered to me 3 weeks ago became another lie in a lifetime of lies. But this lie? This one shattered every single thing I thought I knew about who I was. And the worst part? The truth was so much darker than any secret he'd tried to take to his grave. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began, not on that rainy Tuesday when my father died, but on the Thursday before, when he called me into his hospital room with eyes that held a terror I'd never seen before. I'm Sarah Mitchell, or at least that's who I thought I was for 32 years. I'm a high school English teacher in Portland, Oregon. I have my mother's auburn hair, my father's green eyes, or so I always believed. I lived an ordinary life in an ordinary house with ordinary problems. Until that Thursday. The antiseptic smell of Providence Portland Medical Center had become sickeningly familiar after Dad's stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis 6 months earlier. I'd watched him deteriorate from the strong, silent man who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with calculus homework into this frail, hollow version of himself. Mom had died in a car accident when I was 8, so it had always been just the two of us. He was my only family, my anchor, my entire history. Sarah, he rasped that Thursday afternoon, his voice barely above a whisper. The machines beeped rhythmically around us, counting down his final hours. Close the door. I need to tell you something before it's too late. I pushed the heavy door shut, my heart already racing. There was something in his tone, a desperate urgency mixed with shame that made my hands go cold. I should have told you years ago, he continued, struggling to sit up slightly. Your mother, she made me promise never to tell you. But I can't die with this on my conscience. You deserve to know the truth about where you came from. My mouth went dry. What are you talking about, Dad? His eyes filled with tears, something I'd seen maybe twice in my entire life. I'm not your biological father, Sarah. Your mother was already pregnant when we met. She was running from someone dangerous, someone who hurt her badly. She begged me to protect you both, to raise you as my own. And I did. God, I loved you from the moment I saw you. You became mine in every way that mattered. The room tilted. I gripped the metal rail of his hospital bed, my knuckles white. What? No. That's... Dad, you're confused. The medication. I'm not confused, he interrupted, his voice gaining a strength I didn't know he still possessed. Your biological father was a man named Marcus Thorne. He was wealthy, powerful, and dangerous. Your mother was his secretary. He forced himself on her, Sarah. When she found out she was pregnant, she knew she had to run. She knew what kind of man he was, what he was capable of. Tears streamed down my face. Why didn't you ever tell me? Your mother made me swear. She was terrified he'd find you, find us. She said Marcus Thorne wasn't the kind of man who let things go. He had connections, money, influence. We changed our names, moved across the country. We built a life where he'd never think to look. And when she died, his voice broke. When she died in that accident, I promised her memory I'd keep you safe, keep the secret. I was sobbing now, my entire identity crumbling. Is he still alive? This Marcus Thorne? Dad nodded weakly. As far as I know. He lives in Connecticut, runs some kind of pharmaceutical company. But Sarah, please promise me you'll never try to find him. He's not a good man. Whatever curiosity you feel, it's not worth the risk. Why tell me now? I asked through my tears. Because you deserve to know who you are. And because... He coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Because I wanted you to understand that biology doesn't make a father. Love does. Choice does. Every day I chose to be your dad, and those were the best choices I ever made. He died 3 days later on that rainy Tuesday morning with me holding his hand. His last words were, I love you, baby girl. And I believed in that moment that at least I finally knew the truth about my origins. I was so naive. The funeral was small, just me. A handful of Dad's colleagues from the accounting firm where he'd worked for 28 years. And our neighbor Mrs. Chen, who'd known us since we moved into the house when I was 10. I went through the motions like a robot, accepting condolences, organizing the reception, sorting through the immediate paperwork that death demands, but I couldn't stop thinking about Marcus Thorne. I know Dad made me promise. I know he warned me away. But there was this gnawing need inside me to understand where I came from, to see the face of the man whose DNA I carried. I told myself I just wanted to look, to observe from a distance. I wouldn't make contact. I just It took me 2 weeks to work up the courage. 2 weeks of sitting in Dad's house, surrounded by his things, feeling like an imposter in my own life. Who was Sarah Mitchell? Did she even exist? I found Marcus Thorne easily enough. Daniel Thorne. Actually, apparently Dad had gotten the first name wrong, or maybe Mom had lied about that too. He was the CEO of Thorne Biopharmaceuticals, based in Greenwich, Connecticut. His company specialized in genetic research and personalized medicine. The irony wasn't lost on me. His photo on the company website showed a distinguished man in his mid-60s with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. Not green like mine. I studied his face for hours, searching for any resemblance. Maybe the shape of the chin? The way his left eyebrow arched slightly higher than the right? I bought a DNA test kit that same day. One of those consumer ancestry ones that also offered health screening. I told myself I just wanted confirmation, wanted to see my genetic map, understand my heritage. But really, I think part of me hoped Dad had been wrong. That maybe the medications had confused him after all. The kit sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I finally worked up the nerve to spit in the tube and mail it off. 6 weeks later, the email arrived. Your results are ready. I was in the faculty lounge at school, between classes, when the notification popped up on my phone. My hands shook so badly, I could barely enter my password to log into the website. The ethnicity breakdown appeared first. 48% Irish, 23% Italian, 15% Eastern European, 8% Scandinavian, 6% broadly Northwestern European. Nothing surprising there, it matched what I'd always been told about my mother's side of the family. But then I scrolled to the DNA relatives section, and my world imploded for the second time in 2 months. The screen showed a match labeled close family, possible father or daughter. My heart stopped. But the name next to it wasn't Daniel Thorne or any variation thereof. It was Jennifer Lawrence. Not the actress. I clicked through to the profile. Jennifer Lawrence, 57, from Portland, Oregon. Portland. She lived in the same city as me. The same city where I'd grown up. With shaking hands, I clicked the option to send her a message through the platform. I typed and deleted 3 different versions before finally settling on, "Hi Jennifer. I just got my results and was surprised to see we're a close match. Would you be open to connecting? I'm trying to understand my family history." Sarah. I couldn't focus for the rest of the day. I taught my classes on autopilot, gave my students busy work, and kept checking my phone obsessively every few minutes. The response came at 7:47 that evening. I was sitting on my couch, a glass of wine untouched on the coffee table, staring at nothing. "Sarah, I've been hoping you might take a DNA test someday. I have been searching for you for over 30 years. I have so much to tell you. Can we meet, please?" Jennifer searching for me? My pulse thundered in my ears. I wrote back immediately. Yes? When? Where? We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop in downtown Portland, neutral territory. I barely slept that night, my mind racing with possibilities. Who was Jennifer Lawrence? How did she fit into the story Dad had told me? Was she a relative of Marcus Thorne? A sister, maybe? I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early and claimed a corner table where I could watch the door. At exactly 2 o'clock, a woman walked in who took my breath away. She had auburn hair like mine, though streaked with gray. Green eyes like mine. The same slightly pointed chin. The same way of standing with weight shifted to the left hip. It was like looking at a version of myself 30 years in the future. Our eyes met across the cafe, and she started crying immediately. "Sarah," she whispered, crossing the space between us and pulling me into a hug before I could even stand up. My Sarah, my baby girl. I stood frozen in her embrace, completely lost. I don't understand. Who are you? She pulled back, keeping her hands on my shoulders, studying my face with an intensity that should have felt invasive but somehow didn't. I'm your mother. Sarah, I'm your real mother. The coffee shop seemed to spin around me. That's impossible. My mother died when I was 8. Jessica Mitchell died in a car accident. Jennifer's face crumpled. Jessica Mitchell never existed, honey. That was a lie. I'm Jessica. I'm your mother. And I never died. I was forced to give you up. I sat down hard, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. What are you talking about? I have memories of my mother. I remember her laugh, her perfume, the way she used to read me bedtime stories. Those memories are real, Jennifer said urgently, sitting across from me and reaching for my hands. I was with you until you were 8 years old. But then he found us. He found where we were hiding, and he gave me a choice. Disappear forever or watch him destroy you and Robert. Robert? You mean my dad? She nodded. Robert Mitchell. The man who raised you. The man I loved more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. We met when I was running, when I was pregnant with you. He saved us. He loved us. We had 8 beautiful years together. And then everything fell apart. My head was spinning. Who found you? Marcus Thorne? Her face paled. How do you know that name? Dad Robert, he told me before he died. He said you were running from someone named Marcus Thorne, that he was my biological father, that he'd hurt you. Jennifer's laugh was bitter. Is that what Robert told you? Oh, Sarah, that's not even close to the truth. Then tell me the truth. I nearly shouted, drawing looks from the other customers. I lowered my voice. Please, I need to know what's real. She took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was steady but haunted. Marcus Thorne is real. And yes, I did work for him as a secretary at his pharmaceutical company in Connecticut. But he's not your father, Sarah. He's your grandfather. The world stopped. My grandfather? I repeated numbly. His son, David Thorne, was your father. David was brilliant, charming, and completely unstable. We had an affair, a real one, not assault like Robert told you. I fell in love with David. He promised we'd be together. And then I got pregnant. She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. When I told David about you, he seemed happy at first. But then something changed. He started talking about his research, about genetic perfection, about creating superior bloodlines. I realized the Thorne family wasn't just wealthy, they were involved in things that terrified me. Illegal genetic experiments. Black market genetic material. They were trying to engineer people, Sarah. That's insane, I whispered. I thought so too. Until I started finding evidence. Documents in David's apartment, files on his computer. They were conducting unauthorized human trials, manipulating genetic sequences, doing things that would have landed them all in prison if anyone knew. And David wanted to use you, our baby, as part of his research. My hand went to my stomach involuntarily. What? He said you were special, that your genetic profile was remarkable. I didn't understand half of what he said, but I understood enough to know I had to run. So I took the evidence I gathered and I disappeared. I went to the police first, but Marcus Thorne had too many connections. The investigation went nowhere. So I ran to the other side of the country and tried to start over. And you met Robert, I said softly. Her face softened with memory. I met Robert. He was working as an accountant in Portland. He was kind, stable, normal. Everything David wasn't. I told him the truth, all of it. And he said he didn't care. He said he'd protect us both. We got married. We changed my name. We lived quietly. And for 8 years, we were happy. What happened? Why did you leave? Jennifer's face hardened. David found us. I don't know how. Maybe someone recognized me, maybe they tracked financial records. But one day he showed up at our house while Robert was at work and you were at school. He said I had 2 options, come back with him voluntarily, or he'd manufacture evidence that Robert had kidnapped me and you. He'd destroy Robert's life, drag you through the legal system, and eventually he'd get you anyway. But if I came willingly, if I disappeared and let them think I was dead, he'd leave you both alone. The car accident, I breathed. She nodded. We staged it. I borrowed a car from someone David had paid off. We drove to a secluded area, I got out, and someone else drove it off a cliff into a ravine. The fire destroyed everything. The body they found. She swallowed hard. David had connections in the medical examiner's office. I don't know whose body it really was. And you've been hiding for 24 years? From your own daughter? Not by choice. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. David kept tabs on you. He sent me updates photos of you at school, your report cards, everything. It was his way of reminding me that he could still reach you if I tried to come back. And I believed him. Marcus Thorne's company kept growing, kept gaining power. They had the money and connections to make anyone disappear. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I need air. I can't, this is too much. Sarah, please. No, I said firmly. You don't get to call me that. You don't get to call me anything. You left me. You let me grow up thinking you were dead. Do you have any idea what that did to me? To Dad? Robert knew, she said quietly. I called him once, 6 months after I died. I had to know you were both okay. We spoke for 3 minutes before I hung up, terrified the line was tapped. But he knew I was alive. He made the choice not to tell you. The betrayal crashed over me in waves. Robert knew. Dad knew. They both lied to me. Everyone lied to me. I walked out of the coffee shop and didn't look back. For 3 days, I ignored Jennifer's calls and messages. I went to work, taught my classes, came home, and sat in Dad's house, my house now, trying to process the fact that my entire life was a fiction. My mother was alive. My father wasn't my father. And somewhere out there was a man named David Thorne who'd wanted to use me for genetic experiments. On the 4th day, curiosity got the better of me. I searched for David Thorne online. The obituary hit me like a truck. David Marcus Thorne, 58, died unexpectedly on March 3rd of this year at his home in Greenwich, Connecticut. Son of Marcus and Eleanor Thorne, David was a brilliant geneticist and researcher. March 3rd, the day before Dad called me into his hospital room. The day before he told me about Marcus Thorne. My hands were shaking as I called Jennifer. She answered on the first ring. Sarah? David is dead, I said without preamble. He died in March. There was a long silence. I know. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. How long have you known? I got a notification from a Google alert I'd set up years ago. Sarah, there's more. After he died, his lawyer contacted me. David left a letter. He wanted you to have it. Me? How did he even know about me? He's always known about you, honey. I told you he kept tabs. The letter arrived at a PO box I've maintained. It's addressed to you. I'll bring it to you or you can come get it, whatever you prefer. We met again, this time at a park near my house. Jennifer handed me a manila envelope with my name written in precise, angular handwriting. I opened it with trembling fingers. Dear Sarah, the letter began. If you're reading this, I'm dead. Good. I probably deserved worse. I kept reading, Jennifer watching me anxiously. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Not for the things I did. I'm too much of a narcissist to feel genuine remorse, and I've come to accept that about myself. But I'm sorry for what my actions cost your mother and what they cost you. The truth is, I was obsessed. Not just with genetic perfection, but with you specifically. Your mother told you I wanted to use you for experiments, and that's partially true. But what she didn't know, what I never told her, is that you weren't conceived naturally. Your mother thinks we had an affair, that she got pregnant the usual way. But I drugged her, Sarah. I harvested her eggs and fertilized them with genetically modified sperm in my lab. I implanted the embryo, you when she was unconscious. I was trying to create something unprecedented. A human being with enhanced genetic markers for intelligence, health, longevity. You were my masterpiece, my proof of concept. And when your mother ran, I couldn't let you go. Not because I loved you as a father should, I'm not capable of that kind of love. But because you were my creation, my greatest achievement. But here's the thing I discovered over the years of watching you grow up from a distance. You were remarkable, but not because of anything I did. Your genetic enhancements were minimal. Most of my modifications failed to take. You're extraordinary because of who you chose to become, not because of what I tried to make you. And that's the bitter pill I've spent years choking on. By now, you've probably taken a DNA test. You've probably discovered that Jennifer Lawrence is your biological mother. But I wonder if you've noticed the other results yet. Check your matches again, Sarah. Check carefully. I looked up at Jennifer, my face white. Do you have your phone? Pull up the DNA site. She did, hands shaking as much as mine. I logged into my account and went back to the DNA relative section. I scrolled past Jennifer's name, past a few distant cousins, until I found what David's letter must have meant. Another close family match. Recently added. The name was Rachel Chun? Mrs. Chun? I whispered. Our neighbor Mrs. Chun? Jennifer's face showed she was just as confused as I was. I pulled out my phone and called Mrs. Chun's number. She answered after 3 rings. Sarah, dear, is everything all right? Mrs. Chun, did you take a DNA test recently? There was a pause. Yes, actually. My daughter gave me one for my birthday last month. Why do you ask? Can you come over? To my house? Now? It's important. 15 minutes later. The 3 of us sat in my living room. Me, Jennifer, and Mrs. Chun, whose full name I'd only just learned was Rachel Chen. I don't understand, Mrs. Chun said, looking at the DNA results on my laptop screen. This says we're closely related. But that's impossible. I immigrated from Taiwan 40 years ago. My family is all there. What about children? I asked. Did you ever have children? Her face clouded. I had a daughter, Emily. She died when she was just 3 days old. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me. My husband and I tried for years to have another child, but it never happened. He died 10 years ago. I handed her David's letter. Read the last page. Her eyes scanned the text, and I watched as her face transformed from confusion to horror. The hospital where your daughter died, the letter read. Mercy General in Greenwich, Connecticut. The same hospital where I worked as a genetics researcher. I'm so sorry, Rachel Chen. Your daughter didn't die. I falsified the records and took her. I needed an infant to test my genetic modifications to see if they could be applied post-birth. Your daughter was perfect healthy, with no family history of genetic diseases. I conducted my experiments on her for 3 years. Most failed. She survived, but showed no significant improvements over baseline. So I did something even I recognize as monstrous. I approached a young secretary in my father's company who I knew was desperate to escape an abusive relationship. Jennifer Lawrence. I drugged her, implanted your daughter's egg with my modified genetic material. And when the embryo took, I convinced Jennifer she'd gotten pregnant during our affair. Sarah. Rachel Chun is your biological mother. Not Jennifer. Jennifer carried you, birthed you, raised you, loved you, but her eggs weren't used. You were made from Rachel Chun's daughter's genetic material and my modified sperm. You are, biologically, Rachel Chun's granddaughter. The room was silent except for Mrs. Chun's sobs. I couldn't process it. Couldn't make it make sense. The woman I'd known my entire life, who'd babysat me, who'd brought us casseroles when Dad got sick, who'd been at his funeral, she was my grandmother. My biological grandmother. Emily, Mrs. Chun whispered. My Emily, you're her. Jennifer was crying too. I carried her. I gave birth to her. But she's not mine. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I stood up, backing away from both of them. I need you both to leave. Please, I can't do this right now. They left. and I collapsed on the floor of the living room, surrounded by the boxes of Dad's things I still hadn't sorted through. Dad, Robert Mitchell. The man who'd raised me, who'd loved me unconditionally, who'd been the only constant in a world built on lies. He'd known about Marcus Thorne, but had he known about David? About the experiments? About Mrs. Chen? I went to his office and started going through his files systematically. If there were answers, they'd be here. I found them in a locked drawer in his desk. The key was in his wallet, which I'd been carrying with me since the funeral. Unable to let it go. Inside the drawer was a thick folder labeled David Thorne. It contained everything: letters, photos, reports from private investigators, legal documents, medical records. Dad had known everything. And there, at the bottom of the folder, was a letter addressed to me in Dad's handwriting. It was dated 2 weeks before he died. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, you know the truth. Or at least part of it. David's dead. I hired people to monitor him, and they confirmed it last week. That's why I finally told you about Marcus Thorne. I thought with David gone, the danger was over. I thought I could give you just enough truth to prepare you without overwhelming you. But I know you. My brilliant, curious daughter. I know you won't stop searching until you find everything. So here's what I know. David Thorne was a monster. He created you in a lab using stolen genetic material from a child he'd kidnapped and experimented on. That child's mother was Rachel Chen, our neighbor. I didn't know this when we first moved to this neighborhood. That was pure coincidence. But when I realized who she was, about 5 years after we'd already lived here, I couldn't bring myself to tell her. How do you tell someone their dead child isn't dead, but was used to create another child? I watched Rachel for years, saw her grief, her loneliness. I wanted to tell her so many times, but I was terrified of what the truth might do to her, to you, to all of us. Jennifer, your mother, because she is your mother in every way that matters. She's alive. She's been in Portland this whole time, watching from a distance. I've known since that first phone call 24 years ago. We stayed in contact sporadically. She suffered too, Sarah. She lost everything to keep you safe. I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm sorry your life has been built on secrets and deception. But here's the one truth I want you to carry forward. You are not defined by how you were made. You are not David Thorne's creation or Rachel Chen's stolen legacy or Jennifer's burden. You are Sarah Mitchell, my daughter. The girl I raised and loved every single day of your life. The DNA doesn't matter, sweetheart. The love matters. The choice to show up every day matters. Rachel lost her daughter, but she gained a granddaughter, even if she doesn't know it yet. Jennifer lost years with you, but her love never wavered. And I got 32 years with the greatest gift of my life. You decide what happens next. You decide who you want to be in relation to these people. But remember, family isn't just biology. It's who you choose, who chooses you back, and who loves you unconditionally. I love you forever. Dad in his office for hours, crying, reading the letter over and over. The DNA test results that were supposed to give me answers had only given me more questions. But Dad's letter, Dad's words, those felt like truth. Maybe the only truth that mattered. The next morning, I called Jennifer and Mrs. Chen Rachel. I asked them both to come over. We sat in my living room. 3 generations of women connected by tragedy, science, and circumstance. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. I don't know how to process that the mother who raised me isn't my biological mother, but the neighbor I've known my whole life is my biological grandmother. I don't know how to integrate any of this into my understanding of who I am. Rachel reached for my hand. I lost my daughter 40 years ago. Or I thought I did. In a way, you're her legacy. Part of her lives on in you. That doesn't replace what I lost, but it's a gift I never expected to receive. Jennifer nodded. I didn't carry my own genetic material, but I carried you. I felt you kick. I went through labor. I nursed you and changed your diapers and held you when you cried. Biology is just one small part of what makes a mother. David wanted to create something perfect, I said slowly, working through my thoughts out loud. He wanted to prove that genetics could be manipulated, controlled, perfected. But all he really proved is that he was a monster who destroyed lives in the name of science. "What do you want to do about Marcus Thorne?" Jennifer asked. "He doesn't know about any of this. David never told him the details of his experiments. We could expose what David did." I shook my head. "David's dead. Marcus is an old man. Exposing this won't bring back the years any of us lost. It won't undo the trauma. It'll just create more chaos and pain." "So what then?" Rachel asked. I looked at these two women, one who'd carried me, one whose genetic legacy I carried. "We move forward. We choose what kind of family we want to be. Not because of DNA or obligations, but because we want to. And slowly, carefully, that's what we did. It's been 6 months now since I got those DNA results. Jennifer and I have coffee every Wednesday. Rachel, I still call her Mrs. Chun sometimes out of habit, comes over for dinner every Sunday. We're learning each other, building something new from the wreckage of the past. I went through Dad's things and found photo albums I'd never seen before. Pictures of Jennifer and Robert when they were young and happy. Pictures of me as a baby, as a toddler, as a child. All the evidence of love that transcends biology. I learned that my father lied to me multiple times in multiple ways. But I also learned that sometimes people lie because they're trying to protect you from truths that might destroy you. Sometimes lies are acts of love. The DNA test that was supposed to give me answers instead tore apart everything I thought I knew. But in the destruction, it revealed something more important. That identity isn't written in our genes. It's written in the choices we make, the love we give and receive, and the connections we choose to honor. I'm still Sarah Mitchell, the girl whose father taught her to ride a bike, the woman whose mother read her bedtime stories, the neighbor who Mrs. Chen watched grow up. None of that changed, even when the DNA did. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. I know it's complicated, messy, and probably not what you expected. But that's the truth. Real life doesn't come with neat resolutions or simple explanations. It comes with choices about what we do with the truth once we have it. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own family or your own complicated relationships, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your own stories about discovering unexpected truths. Sometimes just knowing we're not alone in our confusion and pain can make all the difference. And if this story touched you, if it made you feel something, consider subscribing. We're all just trying to figure out who we are and where we belong. Maybe we can figure it out together.